All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's shiur should be Le'ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gabriel Tzvi, and for Zaidi, Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dov HaKohen, and B'schos the Refuah Shalema Bakarov Meshalom ben Sarachel, Miriam Basara, and Yair Yeshia ben Chaya Atara. Today, we are on page 117 in the Or Avigdor, for those who are following along. And today, we are continuing a bit on this last piece, on the seventh criteria of trust, which talks about exclusive responsibilities of Hashem. And we talk about how Hashem rules the world, and as far as when it comes to, this particular point talks about, you can't make more or less for yourself or for anyone else, whether it's your life or your money or time, whatever it is that you're looking for. Hashem already decreed what that should be. We just have to do our shtadlus to find that out. And Rav Av says it's foolish to try to hasten the process of anything in the world, like getting wealth or power quickly without understanding that you have to apply to Hashem. You have to do whatever you're doing. You always have to do it for Hashem, not necessarily for the sake of, I'm going to live a long life for this, or I'm going to get power if I do this. And the source, which Hashem is the source of all the causes, and it's a weakness in your understanding if you don't put your main effort in what you're trying to accomplish, and what you need to try to accomplish is fulfilling Hashem's will. And if your main accomplishment that you're trying to fulfill is this power or this money, and that's the end goal, then that's where the mistakes happen. So now he goes like this, and he says, the wise man, Shlomo Melech, alluded to this in his statement. There is a time for everything, and there is a season for every purpose under Shemayim, under the heavens. And he talks about over there, Shlomo Melech talks about how there's 4 seasons, right, we have in the year. Why? Because there's a time and a place for everything. When we look at our crops and how they grow, we need the winter in order to make sure that the soil rests, and you need the springtime in order to start working the land, and summertime and later on for the crops to grow and to harvest. And so everything has its time, and you can't speed that up, because it doesn't make any sense for that particular thing to speed up, because the right time is when the harvest time is for let's say for the wheat or for the corn or for anything else in our lives. We have a harvest time. We have a time where everything makes sense for it to be that. And this means that Hashem has decreed a time for everything. And since we don't know His plan, we try to do things according to our own time schedule, but Hashem knows better. And he says over here, if a politician ran for office but was not elected, he should know that the result is very good for him. Because why? Because that's what Hashem wanted at the time. That even if he might get elected later on, but that wasn't the right time for him. Rabbi Victor Miller gives a story about President Kennedy, who he worked really, really hard to win the election. And what happened? And soon after, someone came and shot him, killed him. And so sometimes, we try to change the outcome. We try to say, hey, the purpose that I'm doing it for is because of the power or whatever it is. In reality, what you really is, you're rushing into your own demise. And so we got to be careful as to what the thought process is, what the underlying reasoning for you doing what you're doing. And after that statement, Shlomo Melech said, he mentioned 28 cases of specific time decreed by Hashem. You can go back there, we can see it maybe one day. And this is what he said: Eis Leledes, there is a time to give birth. The Eis Lamas is a time to die. Eis Amra and Eis Amra and there's a time for saying Im Melchamas Ve'Eis Shalom. There's a time for war. There's a time for peace. And basically, he goes through 28 different variables of different things where there's time for this and there's a time for another thing. There's always a time for one thing or the other. And it's not always at the time that you want it, but there's a right time for it. And people say, have declared war or tried to make peace, convinced that they're doing this for the greater good of mankind, but really many of them were just doing it because they wanted to empower themselves or gain more fame or kavod. And at the end of the day, really what it boils down to is Hashem really rules the world, and whatever time something's supposed to happen is going to happen. So for whatever's going on in your life and you're looking for, you're trying to make it happen, Just understand that you just need to continue to do your shtadlus, and the right time will come by itself. Don't try to figure out what that time is. Don't try to say, oh, I'm going to make this go quicker. It's not. It's not going to happen like that. It's going to happen in exactly the right moment that it's supposed to happen. Va'amar, and he said, Ki ufega yikras kulam, a time and happening will come to them all. And this means that there are events that are decreed for everyone according to their time schedule. Va'amar, it also says in Kehelas, Ki gavaya me'al gavaya shemu gavayim aleim. For there is one higher above the higher ones who watches and still the higher ones above them. And this kind of alludes to the idea that we have this system called cause and effect, and we attribute the success or an outcome based on a particular cause, right? But that cause really is also a chain in the cause and effect system, because the thing before that caused this to happen, which caused this to happen. So understand that we never have the right idea of to why things happen in which manner and which time it happens. And again, it points back that we need to continue to have full trust in Hashem, that we need to do our shtadlus, and Hashem will do what's right for you at the right time. The ways of Hashem are too secret, too profound, sublime, for an understanding of even part of them. Certainly not to all of them. And sometimes we catch on to a certain sequence of events, saying that, this was done for the purpose of this. And perhaps we can catch on to a little bit, but the entire plan certainly not. And what he's saying over here is that we sometimes can see the Yad Hashem, right? We can see why something happened. And if we do, it's a gift. But understand that that was just a little bit of a piece of what really is the bigger picture. You're looking at it so, like they say in Yiddish, klein kepedik, so small-minded, that you look at something that, this is the cause for this, and this is the great outcome, and really this great outcome is also just another little piece in an even bigger outcome. And also similarly says, just as the skies are high above the earth, so are my ways higher above your ways, and my thoughts above your thoughts. Accordingly, it's impossible for people ever to know until they come up to Shemayim what really God's plan is. And even then, I'm not sure if we really know at that point. If we're told, we're let in on the secret and what the purpose of our lives were, if we fulfilled those outcomes or not. But at the end of the day, I want you guys to remember, don't try to rush into anything thinking that you're going to make this happen faster. Whatever your desires are in life, whether it's money, whether it's fame, whatever it is, you have to remember, what are you doing this for, right? Are you trying to collect money just because you want to be rich and be able to say, I'm rich? Or are you doing this because you want to be able to provide for Klal Yisrael, for the world? You want to do something that Hashem might have given you a gift of wealth, and so now you could do something back for Hashem with that same wealth, what Hashem intended you to use it for. And that's the reason, and that's the purpose. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to rush into it, just know that it's not going to get there any quicker. And that's the seventh element over here. The seventh criteria is that Hashem rules everything in the right time, in the right place, in the right moment, and the right people involved in that circumstance. That's what's going to wind up happening, and that's what we have to understand. And this concludes the first of the 5 basic beliefs for the proper structure that we need in Shaar HaBitachon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all here today, and I love you all.